Kyle Nash joining Locked On Big 12 today, talking all things UCF. Amongst a bajillion places he works, does a lot of work for UCF's black and gold banneret. Kyle, the most underrated Big 12 teams this year. TCU would like a case. Texas Tech would like a case. Iowa State is back there. West Virginia's back there. UCF is inside of that bubble. Who is the most underrated Big 12 team in 2024?
I mean, other than BYU, I don't know who has a better claim to that than UCF. Let's think about this for just a moment. And granted, I understand that anybody who watched UCF playing the Big 12, listen, DJ Giddens was the first to expose that that defensive front like Janet Jackson in a halftime show. But DJ Giddens is an NFL-style running back, man.
Yep.
And they've done so much to repair that linebacker core, it's easy to write them off. You know, Josh Saliskar, Tremont Mars, Brash at the defensive ends, they've both parted ways with the program. But Malachi Lawrence and company might have a little something to say about how big a loss that actually is. Then offensively, you have two Maxwell Award watch list players. And we mentioned KJ Jefferson, who, you know, the ceiling would be him heading to New York for Heisman Trophy candidacy. And how about RJ Harvey, the most overlooked 1,400-yard ground gainer? Listen, no disrespect to Ollie Gordon, but when he came to the bounce house, he was not the running back that made noise. Now, granted, the rain had a little to say about that, and no disrespect to the national monument that is the most beautiful mullet in America in the form of Mike Gundy, and former UCF center Jordan Johnson, by the way, amongst the offensive coaching staff there. Shouts to all of them. But yeah, that didn't go Ollie's way. And I know Ollie doesn't play defense to stop RJ Harvey, but yeah, considering all the pieces and a very ticked off Gus Malzahn, I was DMing you just today, Drake, about what was going on. And this is an angry man ready to find redemption. He is absolutely torqued. That 6-7 was how the Knights finished last season, especially with all the opportunities left on the field. The Texas Tech game, the Oklahoma game, no disrespect, the Baylor game, which you saw in person. I mean, all those are just an example. I could think of more if I'm really looking, but let's just start there. Suddenly, this team is on its way to the potential of a 10-win season its first year in the Big 12. Can you imagine if they did that, what the talk would be, Drake Toll? I mean, man, listen, of course they're underrated so far.
The idea that the horses are in the stable is one that I'm not sure most people have gotten around to yet, but it is the case. And I've seen KJ Jefferson at the highest level. His offensive coordinator, Dan Enos, his last year at Arkansas, was fired midseason in his first season. That's how bad the cluster screw was in Fayetteville. And now that guy gets a second chance under Arkansas's native son, Gus Malzahn, who's going to construct an offense that is conducive to who KJ Jefferson is, a former Heisman conversation quarterback when he was playing at Arkansas. I remember watching him against Kansas in that Liberty Bowl, and he was electric. And now he's got the keys in Orlando. Kyle, when you think about it, I've got Pick Six previews right here. I love it. This is Pick Six Previews, releases a magazine. Brett Ciencia, he's a Heisman voter every year, one of the most accurate in the country. And his rankings, he has Utah at 1, Kansas State at 2, Oklahoma State at 3. None of those are too shocking. Oklahoma State being up there is something that is contested. Number 4, UCF. While the Big 12 media poll didn't see this, one of the most accurate college football magazines does. Now, that question segues into this. Kyle, Arizona, Iowa State, TCU, Kansas, West Virginia, Texas Tech, Colorado, those schools, in a matchup between any of those and UCF, do you have the utmost confidence the Knights can win, and especially on the road?
Yeah, the only team that I would struggle with is actually going to be the one that's here in the bounce house late November on Friday, Black Friday specifically, and that's Utah, right? Yeah. If UCF is to finish 4th in the Big 12, it will be a loss to Utah that puts them there, in my mind. And listen, I had an episode of the Night Shift podcast with my black and gold banneret friends. Bing! I had written an article to pull back some of the noise here I hear in Florida.
Wait a second. You cut out there for a second. What was that podcast called?
That would be the Night Shift podcast. Bing! So I love the opportunity, the shameless plug action, man. Listen, this is why you're my favorite fur-coated friend there, doing your thing for the Savannah and all that. But that's okay. We're getting party animal on you here, right?
I love it.
With all that in mind, the part that I get right to is when it comes to UCF, it's easy to overlook them because something seemed to forget. Actually, I haven't had the chance to finish the research on this, but it's going to be good when I do. The number of games Gus Malzahn has coached with somebody other than his starting quarterback, Drake, he hasn't finished the season at UCF with a starting quarterback. And I can make an argument he probably didn't have a fully healthy starter halfway in the first half of a season played through, right? Yeah, I know that John Rice Plumlee went out there against Kansas. He shouldn't have been there, as we saw in the eventual curb stomping that was the Jayhawks over the Knights that particular day. But there's been so much building, and the fact that KJ Jefferson is the closest thing, in the words of Gus Malzahn, I might add, the closest thing to Cam Newton that he's coached in terms of size in a long time. Ain't nobody confusing KJ Jefferson with a baseball player, as did the very talented, albeit John Rice Plumlee. Just saying.
I like Timmy McClain. Never hated him. Never hated him. I think he deserves some flowers for what he did as a backup at UCF, keeping them competitive in certain games. And I even pointed the Baylor game, and it's not his fault that was a loss. He did everything in his power. To John Rice Plumlee, who's a damn good quarterback, who was someone that was really good at Ole Miss in two sports, goes to UCF and was, I'm sure, a star on campus and a star amongst the fan base.
Big deal on the baseball team too, Drake, for the record.
100%. However, those two guys are not KJ Jefferson, who's getting comps to Cam Newton, which you hit the nail on the head. Now, 4 is crazy. Nobody else in the world, this is a very accurate magazine, nobody else in the world has them at 4. But God bless, there they are right there. Brett Ciancia does. And if UCF finishes 4th in the Big 12, it'll send shockwaves through the conference and set them up for a possible Big 12 championship victory in 2025. I believe that wholeheartedly, Kyle, and maybe they're in a spot for a Big 12 championship dark horse race, especially as things get jumbled up with a lot of parity in the league this season. Up next on Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show, bud. It's brought to you by eBay Motors. I have a Nissan Maxima sitting outside. I work for a baseball team. It gets hit with baseballs all the time. I just found a new little bing, on the car yesterday. And you know what? I go to eBay Motors, and eBay Motors says, hey, look, dude, you got a little, your bumper's a little dinged up from the baseballs. You call us and we got you. Passion, drive, and patience. They got exhaust kits, LED headlights, and superchargers, roof racks, bumpers, whether you're into passion, speed, power, style. They have 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. eBay Guaranteed Fit means that your part is going to fit your ride every time or your money back. With eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. All the prices that you want, all the parts that you need. It's easy to make that car the MVP today. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers, but you visit ebaymotors.com today, and they'll hook you up with those 122 million parts. That is eBay Motors.